second review car. And Tony, sometimes people accuse us of not reviewing enough domestically built cars. This time we've got something as American as apple pie.
Well, that's right, Ted. We try to cover as much as we can and please as many people as we can, and there are over 600 models out there, so it's pretty tough to pick them.
It's interesting that despite the influx of import sedans, the domestic-built sedan is still the favorite of most people.
Well, that's right. If you like big domestics, you'll love this one. It's not really my kind of car, but nonetheless, I got quite attached to it after a while. The Olds 88 Royale is a fairly large car and looks a little bit like an Infiniti Q45 from some angles. No harm in that. It seems to combine styling influences from Europe and Japan, but ends up looking quite handsome in a North American kind of way. Least successful element is the Olds nose, which doesn't quite work for me. I've never been happy with GM's efforts to individualize models by nose treatments. All the divisions except Cadillac seem to struggle with this styling cue, and it rarely seems to work out for them. Interestingly, the front fenders seem to be made of the same plastic material as the panels on GM's futuristic vans, like the Pontiac Transport. From an occupant standpoint, it's a practical design, except for an obtrusive pillar which creates a kind of dummy no-draft window just back of the windshield. GM's 170 horsepower 3.8-litre V6 has found a home in the 88, and it's a nice smooth motor that endows the big car with quite brisk performance. The 4-speed automatic transmission is outstanding, and few manufacturers make a better one. 100 kilometers per hour comes up in less than 10 seconds, and fuel economy is about 11 litres per 100 kilometers for all-around use. A base 88 Royale costs just under $23,000, and GM's warranty is 3 years or 60,000 kilometers. Suspension is fully independent, and disc brakes are fitted all round, nudging the 88 ahead of some Japanese rivals in the technology stakes. This car handled far better than a Ford Crown Victoria I tested a while back. Nosedive is minimal under hard braking, and the car seems very stable during quick lane changes and tight turns. Getting into an 88 presents the usual GM problem of 2 keys, both of which can only be used one way up. The car also has those annoying button-operated door locks we often complain about. A viewer recently took me to task over this, telling me that it was a good security feature. Nonetheless, I prefer key-operated central locking. Seating and trim owes something to the Liberace's bedroom school of design, but it is a comfortable cabin. Front split bench seats like these are very practical and certainly have a place in the scheme of things. On the other hand, I'm no fan of dreary monotone interiors like that of the 88, much preferring a mixture of carefully chosen tones. Our test car was trimmed in dark red, which would probably resist soiling better than most. There is a shameful lack of interior stowage areas. No door bins, no seat back pockets, nothing. Maybe Olds spent all the money on what must be the world's most ingenious drinks holder. Less trouble probably went into designing the Stealth Fighter. The dash is quite well equipped with proper round dials and easy-to-reach controls, but there is no tachometer. The climate control panel has to be the smallest I've ever seen, and could probably be covered by a pack of cigarettes. The trunk is huge and the lip is fairly low for lifting in heavy loads. Also, the trunk lid swings well up out of the way, so taller folks don't track their heads when loading up. The 88 proved a very pleasant car to drive, especially on long runs. It's very relaxing and handles well, without resorting to overly firm European-type suspension. As a buy, it's very hard to beat, and few cars offer as much value for money. It's not going to send the folks at Lexus and BMW rushing back to their drawing boards, but it'll make lots of fans among those who prefer traditional domestic automobiles. GM offers several rivals for this car, including the Chevrolet Lumina, Pontiac Grand Prix and Buick Regal. From Ford, there's the Crown Victoria and Taurus, plus their Mercury variants, and Chrysler has its New Yorker range. As far as imports go, you'll have to accept a smaller car and likely pay more money to get something close to the 88 Royale. This is really worth the money, this car, Ted, and I have to give it a driving dollar value of 7/8 of a tank, almost a full tank.
Are you ready for this? I thought this was a very good car. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. Some things bothered me. That phony no-draft window thing was ridiculous. The storage was non-existent. That cup holder was a joke, and I got a bit of a problem with the front grille. But all things considered, this is one of my favorite American-built sedans. I really quite like it.
Well, I felt the same way. If they'd put some interior stowage space in, and maybe the interior could be really could be a lot better, you know, by modern international standards. But I kind of put that aside in making a judgment. It is an excellent car. The handling is very, very good.
Yeah.
There's none of that nosedive you associate with many domestics. It's a very well-balanced
I've always liked the 88. Even last year's version was pretty good. But having said that, I have to point out here, this car had an engine fire while we were testing it. I gather one of the oil lines broke.
Well, that's right.
And the engine just burst into flames.
Yeah, we did have a problem with it, and I hope this is an isolated thing, because
me too.
a pipe blew off the oil cooler, and oil went all over the engine and caused a fire and a lot of consternation and so forth, and there was oil all over the road and the sidewalk. But I think that's probably an isolated incident, and it's not something you can expect if you buy an 88. Okay, let's sum up here. Things we didn't like: disgraceful lack of stowage space in the interior, the dreadful velour trim, and that awful central locking gem keeps staying with. On the plus side, outstanding drivetrain, very, very good value, and handling much better than expected. So driving dollar value, 7/8 of a tank. Just try and do something about that dreadful interior.
Yeah, and try to do something about the engine fire while you're at it. We'll be right back.